we now come to one of the most interesting things which was hinted throughout the day, which is healthcare and the use of AI specifically in healthcare. To delve deeper into this, I request the panel to get onto to invite them to the stage. First, I want to invite the moderator of this session, Mr. Dhruv Rastogi. Mr. Dhruv Rastogi is the SVP and Head of Data Science in Medi. He's a versatile data scientist with over 15 years of experience across finance, marketing, sales, and healthcare organizations. He has been recognized as one of India's top 100 AI and analytics leaders. Please give a warm hand to. Joining the panel is Mr. Sriram Naganathan, President, Technology and Operations, CTO, HDFC ERGO General Insurance. He is building and leading digital transformation and innovation for projects designed to deliver positive, measurable, and sustained business outcomes for the company. Welcome. Joining the panel is Dr. Abhijeet Kanetkar, the Chief Business Officer of Xangam, a seasoned leader in healthcare, insurance, and Insurtech. He drives innovation through his deep expertise in emergency medicine, psychology, and insurance management. Welcome, Dr. Abhijeet. Guys, thank you. Mr. David Frankenfield, the Chief Data and Analytics Officer in Amplify Health. He leads an expanding team of highly skilled data and AI professionals, developing a state-of-the-art data and analytics as a service propositions. And joining the team is Mr. Shashvat Tripathi, co-founder and CTO of Visit Health, India's leading health tech organization providing online and offline doctor consultations, diagnostics, pharmacy, fitness, and medical benefits. Thank you. Over to you, Dhruv. Thanks.
So, AI in healthcare is no more a future tense conversation. It's impacting things, it's transforming things right now. From diagnosis, to claims, to operations, to risk, to caregiving. AI is actually transforming things as we speak. It's great to be here. We have an amazing panel. We have people who've super achieved in their respective areas. We have people from insurance. We have clinicians. And at the same time, we have some eclectic technologists as well. It's a pleasure for me to host this panel, to be a moderator for this panel, and I have some really difficult questions for all the panelists as well. We'll get started. My first question is for Sriram. Sriram, at your organization, could you mention as the head of technology, as somebody who's leading a very, very large enterprise, can you share one or two excellent use cases that you would have solved, right? And you know, the first set of questions we'll focus on the engine room in healthcare, which actually is insurance, right? And I'll appreciate if you could talk more on claims and operations and risk and related areas. Over to you.
Thank you. Happy to be here, and very interesting question, very topical kind of a question. So I think AI, again for us, it's not been new. We have been on the AI journey for many, many years now. And like you said, clearly, one of the areas that people have been using, AI a lot on is frauds, especially around claims and specifically on health claims. So that's clearly an area that we have been working on. This is more your traditional AI, AI ML, close to 6-7 years into the journey. So we have had several iterations of the models and have seen some decent success in frauds. And the way we do it is, this is typically, models which flag, probably those outliers. and which, probably, we go and investigate a little further. So that's something that we have been doing for a long time. And I think it's fairly established. A lot of people do this, globally as well as in India. If I have to talk something recent that we have done about, in the last couple of years, it's on the growth space, on the distribution space. So we created an ecosystem, an ecosystem called Here for customers and something called One Up for partners. But the more important thing that we did is, while this is a front-facing ecosystem, we put data to play. And we put, all the years of data that we had, we anonymized it, and we kind of democratized it. We built a data lake, we ran some models on top of it, and then we exposed the results, through the ecosystem. And this was actually, a concept that our management and board believed in. We said, let's not run behind market share, let's run behind mind share. So mind share to market share was the mantra that we followed. And it was a concept, but 2 years into it, we have seen that that really has paid dividends for us, because we can now see clear perceptible difference. So for a partner, for example, an agent, seeing that, their retention levels are increasing now. Seeing that, the profitable portfolio is now coming to fruition. So those are things that we have realized, and I thought that's probably something a little different than your usual use cases. And this, while it is still, AI that we have done, I think now we've started moving into Gen AI, looking at the generative pieces as well. And, the distribution, see again, you see a lot of service use cases, claims, underwriting use cases, but which we have also done. But I thought, the growth story is something that's also something new, which will probably, resonate with some in the audience.
No, exciting. I think it's a pretty unique approach, talking more about mind share than market share. Thank you so much. Dr. Kanetkar, would you like to share something on the same lines on how do you really design products, managing cost, managing risk, and at the same time driving personalization as well, right? And how has really AI helped you in driving these things better and faster?
Thank you. Good evening, and thanks for having me. And guys, we are aware that we all are standing in between the cocktail and you. So but you will have to just bear for a while with us. Dhruv, basically, when we are looking at the products, eventually you will have to think from a healthcare perspective. When you are developing products, you have to look at the market research. When you are talking about AI while developing the products, yes, it is very important to understand what exactly you want to replace with AI when you are developing product. You can't be just saying that, okay, everything which you are doing through the human brain, you can replace by AI. I think the market and the people are not that matured so that they can immediately accept the things which are happening through AI. And we will have to wait for a while, maybe a couple of years or maybe 5 years. But yes, after a few years, definitely there will be certain things where you will get products developed on the fly or some customized product available for the people. Now we can see that is happening in motor insurance. Many a times we are looking at it from a customization perspective, from personalization perspective, we are doing it. But in healthcare or maybe in life insurance or some health insurance cases, you will have to understand that healthcare is not as AI savvy as other products or other departments in the insurance industry. So I think we will have to wait for a while for that. From a cost perspective, yes, it will be cost effective, no doubt about it. But that doesn't mean that, again, because it is a risk which you are taking. When you are looking at just cost of development, cost of developing the product, as well as cost which you will bear at the time of claims. So you will have to look from that perspective as well. So if you develop something which is AI driven and not tested properly, then you will end up in having high risk and high claims ratio, which nobody is willing to take. So I think you have to be cautious when you are developing the products. yes, it is on the cards, but it will take some time. That's what I can say.
Thank you, thank you. That makes a lot of sense. Thanks for sharing your views. Dave, Shashvat, would you like to add something to this question?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely, and let me just touch on the OPD aspect of things, because OPD care is much more frequent. You almost use it on a daily basis, at least your family does. And so there you have a lot of scope of personalization of OPD products, be it through teleconsult, offline consults, pharmacy, chronic care management, and so many things are there, right? And so unlike IPD, which has a very low incident rate, the scope of personalization of OPD products is huge. And let me just touch on another fact, which is that in India, the data systems are quite, not broken, but still in silos, right? And it's much more difficult to consolidate silos which are innumerate, right? I mean, it's easier to consolidate 5 or 10 sources, but it's much more difficult to consolidate 10,000 sources, which is the case with, with OPD. And so that's where I feel that, a lot of personalization from insurance companies would, take India to the next level.
Yeah, I'll just add a quick comment. I mean, as I reflect on what everybody's answering, whether it's my own personal journey or what we believe at Amplify Health, the idea of personalization in healthcare obviously is a big topic. But one of the things I find ironic is that if you go into a lot of organizations, particularly insurance organizations today, there is nothing architected in your business with the member in the center. Everything is transactional. So even the idea of outpatient versus inpatient, or all the other things, touch points, the different engagement areas that you have, it's so difficult to bring it together, not only because of the internal fighting and the difficulty that you make it for yourself, but the idea of data interoperability is a side effect from the way that you've actually designed your organization, the way that you've designed either the applications and technologies you built or purchased. So I think we can all talk a really big game on personalization, but until we take a step back and say, what does it really mean to re-architect our business to be member-centric, literally all the way down to the infrastructure standpoint, then we're still gonna continue to struggle to really, I mean, if I was to ask the question, what would you do if you were a company with one member? That's the answer. And if you can't satisfy that, then there's clearly something that needs to be cleaned up in the way that your business is designed.
We spoke quite a lot about the engine of healthcare, which is insurance. Let's talk about something that fuels this engine, which is data, which is technology, which is systems, right? And my question now is to Shashvat. Shashvat, you and your organization work a lot in the preventive care side, right? So tell us more about some wins you've had, right? Driving networks, driving consumption, improving preventive healthcare in the country, and what are some of the challenges that you faced around it?
Right. So I think let me just expand on what David just said. You have to take a step back, and you have to look at the systems that are operating and ensure that there's enough interoperability between the systems to kind of do any kind of have any kind of meaningful impact. And so when it comes to preventive care, which is so much more important, right? I mean, rather than being reactive, if only our healthcare system was more preventive in nature, that would have helped a lot. There are two things that have kind of been where we kind of did good. Is one, personalization, which is because we have a lot of insight and data and transaction volume, because we're at the intersection of the insurer, the customer, the payer, the patient, and the providers. We are in a position where we can leverage that data, build good systems to work with different kinds of payer systems, insurer systems, and provider systems, and then send nudges. right? Send care plans, send treatment plans, as simple as, meal logs or diet plans, which kind of make the end customer, the end patient, live a little more informed and healthier life. There are other things as well where there's a lot to be done, but I think those are the two big wins that we've had.
Excellent, excellent. Glad to hear that. Sriram, would you like to add something?
No, I think kind of taking off from where you left, within the insurance space that we are working on, I think clearly, the data, the quality of data and all of that becomes very critical. So I mentioned the ecosystem that we launched to our partners. Clearly, while the ecosystem is front-facing, we realize that the underlying data is what is going to be critical, and add value to the users of that particular ecosystem. So we created something called as a provider 360. Customer 360 is something that we, a lot of us do. So we did this provider 360, where we went end to end and we saw across the provider life cycle, the chain, of transactions that they do end to end. We kind of culled all the data, cleaned it up, and then, kind of made it available. Similar concept where we then said we use the data in a data lake to fire, all of these nudges. And that's really what, gave value to the end users. So clearly, that's a very, very practical approach we followed, and we realized that, you work on that kind of a concept. We do, many times get carried away with AI, but very effective point is that, if you don't have the underlying data cleaned and made available for a real-time consumption, then, there's only so much that Gen AI or AI can do. So.
Absolutely, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. On the same lines, Dave, what do you think is the biggest misconception about data in healthcare? And, what kind of things you think or you would like to suggest to make this more usable and to make this more secure?
Yeah, so seeing that it's 6:42, and be a little provocative on this one, because, being now in Asia for 3 years, I think the first part of my answer to you is that with no investment into your data, everybody thinks their data is proprietary to them. And particularly in healthcare, you're receiving the same exact information from the providers and your members as your competitors do. And my point isn't about shaming people about, maybe misthinking about what is proprietary or not. The point is, you need to invest in the data to contextualize it, to enable all of the great stuff that we want to do and that you've heard on the stage today. The underinvestment in the contextualization of what's happening in healthcare is the #1 blocker for success, and two, back to the idea of a misconception. I can't tell you how many times I've worked with clients and we've talked about, hey, look, let's essentially codify these claim lines, or let's, as we move towards some sort of standard data model, this is what other markets in the world do. And one of the responses is, well, I need a business use case to be able to make that investment. And that just tells you that they don't necessarily view their data as an enterprise asset. So the contextualization, the investment as an asset, I think are probably two, it's either underestimated or are a misnomer. But, if you think about this from where AI is going, and one of the things that we try to do at Amplify isn't just, sell products and kind of make money that way. It's how do we actually help our clients become AI ready from the data up? And for people that stop by our booth, clearly one of our big messages is that we've been working on how do we use AI to codify claims, bring international coding standards into markets that don't have reliable information, particularly on the claim side of this. But, Gen AI, agentic AI is not going to solve this problem for you. I mean, it's a bit of a trade-off of, do I make the investment to persist this context in my underlying data assets, or am I somehow going to bury this domain expertise in over-engineered prompts that nobody understands how this thing is working? And so, I mean, I'm sure there are people out there today that are just like, well, you know what? I'm writing prompts that are longer than the lines of code that I would build or the query that I would write. I get really concerned about people that are putting domain or enterprise expertise and burying it into a prompt instead of saying, wait a minute, I need to actually make this part of my enterprise data asset as well. So those are, you know, three things that I think are kind of missed points around data, particularly on AI ready. A quick comment on the whole governance piece. I mean, this one, it's a delicate subject for me because I'd like to be a bit provocative and cavalier to try to progress innovation, but at the same time, working in the industry for 20 years, very sensitive to regulatory and compliance needs. The message that I would send or share over the last 3 years is that we do need to rethink the way that governance processes are meant to enable, not to restrict. Right, I have an old adage, a funny saying that I like to use, that young people tell you the rules, old people tell you how to get around the rules. We really need to start understanding what does it mean to work in the gray space of a lot of these policies and not just interpret it the same way. I mean, about a month ago, we had a court in the EU rule that anonymization of data takes the jurisdiction of GDPR away. Why aren't we looking at these to say, okay, well, if I can anonymize and de-risk data sets, how much more innovation does that open up? And I'm sure there are people in the audience today that feel this pain as they work with their legal and compliance teams where they get told or read the same policy over and over and over again. So how can we, it's not about challenging those enabling functions, but how can we start to shift their mental model that these really important processes like governance and responsible use aren't there to restrict innovation, it's to help us figure out what outcomes and how do we enable the outcomes that we want to get to.
Fantastic. Following up on Dave's thoughts, Dr. Kanetkar, related question. You know, it's believed or sometimes not believed that a lot of great quality data makes the importance of subject matter experts less. What is your thought about it? Does having a lot of data, does having a lot of quality data reduces the importance, reduces the relevance that subject matter experts bring on the table? And you know, the domain could be caregivers, they could be insurance experts, they could be in sales. But it's a very interesting question, and this is something a lot of us talk about, but I would like to hear your thoughts.
So basically, when I'm answering this question, sitting among the tech guys, it's difficult. So I'll tell you from a tech perspective, yes, more the data, the learning is more, and the inferences are more accurate, right? And that is what we all look for. But at the same time, if I talk about certain sectors like healthcare, typically the doctor sitting over here can understand that we always say that in medicine it is never 1 + 1 2. It can be 11, it can be 3, it can be 5. Because that's how the things happen. So learning based on the data doesn't mean bigger data will be having bigger learning. It has to be the accurate data. More accurate data, more data, that will give more value to the decision making and the inferences. And of course, over the period, it will happen. It is bound to happen that the expertise required will, or the human expertise required will go down. But again, as I said, it is a bit away from now. It will take some time. But unless and until the data is accurate, the data is too much. I mean, it has to be so much that the system has learned all types of it. Then only it is possible. All the anomalies are learned, all the outliers are learned by the system. Then only you can say, you can rely fully on the data, the decisions given by the data. So I think yes, in a way we can say more data, yes, you will have more learnings, but if it is accurate, then only you can do away with the human expertise.
Excellent, excellent. I totally agree. I think no matter how much we talk about data being complete, there are always exceptions, there are always outliers, which only an expert with a lot of experience and a lot of knowledge and a lot of context would be able to address. And of course, there is no taking away the human factor and the human touch. Shashvat, I would like you to add a little more on this, considering the space you operate in.
Yeah, no, I get to hear this a lot where people, have this conception where if you have a lot of data and if you have, very well-trained models and AI and all of that, will the subject matter experts become less important, right? And I have a very fundamental opinion on this. I don't believe they'll be less important. The people who are truly subject matter experts are going to have an amplification factor on them. Their productivity, their work, their impact would just be amplified. Their importance should therefore also get amplified. Perhaps what people confuse or conflate it with is, will there be enough high quality subject matter experts who can cope up with this level of agentic or AI or ML models? I think that is something that needs to be really thought of. So let me just put an analogy on this. You would have a lot of adjudication systems tomorrow where you might not need as many assessors or adjudicators as you need today. But then the ones that you truly need, right, their work will be super important, right? And so you might not need a lot of them, but the ones that you need will be kind of irreplaceable. And so yeah, that's my take on that.
So what I can say is the true subject matter expert will never go away. Yes, maybe the low level people or low level assistance will be kind of compromised. You can get such. So simple example, if I talk about the healthcare, or as Shashvat mentioned, probably even if you talk about the claims assessment, suppose in insurance, typically the one who has actually trained and who has helped to develop the system, he will never go. But the junior people or people who are like the work which is much standard can be replaced by the AI. So that we can definitely consider. But the true subject matter expert will be empowered with the AI. That's what we can say.
Interesting, very interesting. One area that's increasingly becoming important with availability of data and scalability and AI, etc., is focus on patient experience. Right? Especially, when it's a hospitalization case, or let's say even if it's an OPD case, right? What really is the patient experience about? Like, for example, at Medi Assist, we have this offering called as Raksha Prime. And what that does is, it enables you to have 0 waiting times for discharge. Otherwise, the waiting times generally happen to be of the order of 3 to 6 hours in cashless claims, because there's a lot of coordination between the hospital, their respective departments, and the insurer, TPA, and so on, right? But this service essentially looks at past patterns of bills and diseases and treatments, and can get a fairly high accurate value of the out-of-pocket expense. That's one use case that we could sort of implement at scale. But I would like to hear Sriram, or in fact Dr. Abhijeet, Dave, Shashvat, is there something on patient experience that you could really sort of implement at scale? And yes.
I think you give some very interesting points, coming from a Medi Assist perspective, a very large TPA. I think I can kind of relate to a lot of that. Just carrying that discussion a little further, absolutely. I mean, really, customers are the reason of our existence in a service industry, especially in the insurance industry where we operate in. So very clearly, for us, when we say patient, actually the customer who's getting hospitalized or who's getting treated, it could be an OPD claim. The experience at that time has to be very sensitive, because, he's going through a certain turmoil at that point. So how easy do you make the process? So we are working on, these concepts of pre-approval, for example, pre-authorization. I mean, all of us have friends, family who have gone through hospitalization. Just go back a little time. I mean, RSBY was floated by the government many, many years back, and it's, it was such a smooth process. I mean, at a time when there was no AI, no Gen AI, there was still a very, very simple process which was thought through. There was a NFC-enabled feature phone. A customer, an enrolled customer would walk in, and it was almost like a pre-authorization on the fly. That kind of got us thinking into saying, if an RSBY program can do that, why can't we? So we are trying to work out on a pre-approval, for example. So imagine, I as a customer, if there is somebody in family who wants to get hospitalized, you don't really have to go to a desk and wait for a half an hour or 45 minutes or an hour for an approval. So that's one thing we are trying to work on. The second thing, experience again. Settlement. How many times have we all experienced the fact that, the doctor has kind of promised saying you can go home tomorrow, but then the next day you are just waiting just for the procedures to get completed. Very practical experience. So we are trying to see again, a pre-approval there. We have access to a lot of that data. So can we kind of, do a pre-approval there? So that, the moment the doctor comes in and says, okay, discharge, actually, customer can walk out. Then it's between the insurer and the hospital to settle the bills. I'm talking about a cashless claim. So these are the kind of things, that we are trying to do. Again, not a lot of AI, deep Gen AI that's needed to do a lot of this, a lot of process rethinking, re-engineering that needs to go through, backed by solid quality data. We are actually, trying to make this happen. As we are speaking, these are POCs that we are doing.
So if I have to answer it from an insurance perspective, because I'll keep healthcare aside, it is a complete different ball game altogether. So if I'm talking from a insurance perspective, I think yes, AI definitely helps you to streamline and speed up a lot of processes. There is no question about it. Especially, I think Shashvat will agree with me, when there are OPD claims or there are cashless claims, we used to issue the cashless approvals 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours. Now we are talking about half an hour and 1 hour, right? So it is possible only with certain learning from the past, and that is AI which we are converting it into. So that is very, very important. In case of OPD, when you see from a cost perspective, suppose if you put people and you want to give the immediate cashless OPD, I think people cannot wait there, right? Saying that, okay, I will get the approval, then I will go home. No, they want immediate approvals, and that's where you need to have AI. Then only the approval would be very fast. Second thing, when you look at OPD cases, they are much more than the IPD cases. In IPD, people are sitting in the hospital so they can wait. In OPD, they can't. And that's where you have to get the decision very fast, and you cannot invest a lot of money in it. I can't have multiple doctors sitting just because I have to do it faster. The only option is either I have to use AI or I have to have multiple doctors sitting. So if I put many doctors sitting just for a claim of 500 rupees or 1000 rupees, doesn't make any sense, right? So in that case, yes, AI is the solution which you have to use, and it actually helps people from customer satisfaction, from cost effectiveness, and insurance efficiency as well. Because if the cashless OPD is available, people are moving towards insurance coverage, otherwise they are not. So I think that is a lucrative part even from a sales perspective. So yes, AI will definitely help. Again, I would say that the data and the accuracy of the data will definitely help you to build right AI and take the decisions in lesser time. So I think yes, it is helpful, but it has to be used properly, that's it.
No, it's great to hear. And I think, while we all talk of customer experience in fields like retail and commerce, I think healthcare is one area where it's so very important, because the person or the family who we are offering better experience is actually emotionally, financially, and physically very vulnerable, right? And an improvement in experience at that point is something that people never forget, right? So it's not about buying something faster, easier, or getting food in time, but it's really about helping people when they need it the most, which is when, they are at the point of healthcare delivery. One area that always plagues or, creates problems is fraud, waste, and abuse. Right? And a lot of advancements have been done in this field leveraging AI. There are a lot of exciting case studies out there. I mean, just to give you an example, at Medi itself, we were able to double and triple the savings in certain segments, and with far higher hit rates as well. Because the data was now more connected, you had better algorithms that you could operate on, right? But this is a problem that the entire industry keeps battling, right? Whether it's the providers or the payers or the benefit administrators or even the technology platforms and the vendors who are offering solutions around it. Shashvat, Dave, I would just love to hear from you because you're at the cutting edge of solving these problems.
Yeah, so just to mention, I spent 20 years in the States doing fraud, waste, and abuse with one of the largest payers out there. It certainly is one of the most complicated things, particularly if you include medical necessity in blending into this space as well, right? I mean, one of my jokes I typically say to kind of jolt people is that I don't care about fraud because you don't get the money back. No, that's not true. I care about fraud, but the point is that all the money is in waste and abuse, and that's way more complex than actually trying to detect fraud. So there's a paradigm here on how do you kind of attack this space. I mean, being yet again in Asia for 3 years, I mean, whether it's a data problem or an AI problem or a business process problem, I've seen cases kind of materialize where there were members that were submitting fake claims in reimbursement claim scenarios. Like, why don't we have a plug for that hole? Or, we saw one case in Southeast Asia where there was a member going around in over a 2-year period, essentially submitted claims for 600 inhalers, and then they were selling them on the black market. Like, these are easy things to pick up, but still we're getting duped by a lot of this. And I think it's not just about how do you use AI to detect a flag. I mean, I could flag claims all day. And when you're talking about institutions and facilities, you're going to flag hundreds of claims and, on multiple flags per claim all day. The real question is, if AI is telling you that there's smoke, what business capabilities do you need to develop to essentially synthesize that into action? And I'm going to tell you, a lot of payers today do not have those business capabilities. And what I see happening is that all too often, they just dump it either on the claim administrator and the assessor, like they're going to become some sort of case manager, and then next thing you know, it's going to take 45 minutes to process a claim. Or two, they think they're going to put it into the provider management capability, and next thing you know, every time they go to talk to a provider, they're showing up with like a 3-month case study that needs to be done to go get, X% of the savings, or kind of try to claw back a little bit of money. So to me, yes, I mean, there's a lot to be done on finding these simple things, doing outlier detection, getting deep into kind of cohorting of specialties in clinical behavior. I mean, I still believe that anywhere between 2 to 5% of all medical costs out there is within each specialty, just the clinical variation on the way that doctors believe the art of medicine should be practiced. There's a ton of collusion out there, not just between providers, but providers and members, and particularly in Asia with agency. We had a case about 1.5 years ago where literally a sales agent was colluding with his wife, who was a doctor, and he was pushing all of his patients to her. And it took years for them to actually detect that. So is that a data problem? Is that a protection of agency problem? And we all know how sacred agency is in some markets. Is it an AI problem? Is it a business capability problem? I mean, to be honest with you, it's all of those things. So I guess to kind of close on that, AI is not a silver bullet for fraud, waste, and abuse. When you break down the different archetypes of behavior in fraud and waste and abuse patterns, yes, it is essentially an algorithmic problem. But all AI is going to do is tell you where the smoke is. And you need to figure out, how do you actually determine, is there fire, and is it something that I need to actually invest resources in to go get that value back?
Absolutely. I think AI is fantastic when it comes to doing better sampling. But after that, to prove something, you do need more evidence, right? You do need more substance to really go ahead and deny something, right? Shashvat, I'll move to the last question.
Just wanted to add one thing. Um, Even if AI is the silver bullet, let's not forget that these bad actors also have that silver bullet.
It's AI against AI.
Yeah, and so I can talk about some very interesting cases, of course, after the panel where we've noticed people using AI to kind of defraud the system. And it starts off small. Instead of using whitening ink to now just generating a PDF, right? Instead of trying to fudge the QR code, now actually generating a legitimate QR code. And so let's not forget that. These bad actors are as smart, intelligent, as maybe more than the rest of us.
Yeah, just one quick comment. I mean, when ChatGPT 3.0 came out, everybody was amazed and thinking about positive things. The first thing that we said was, how do I know if that ChatGPT actually generated a fake claim? That was the first thought that we had.
Last question to Shashvat and to Sriram is on trust and adoption, right? And while it's a very we can go for hours and hours to talk about it, but I would like you to talk about or share one use case where you earlier faced problems, either in internal adoption or with with the members, and how you overcame it, right? And I would like Sriram also, it could be your internal consumers in the enterprise or it could be external members. Can you share one use case where, you had problems in trust and adoption, and how did you really overcome the problem?
Yeah, I'll probably quickly talk about one example. Early days when we started experimenting with GenAI, we tried to apply it on legal claims. And legal claims, the back files can be pretty voluminous, running into hundreds of pages. So we started the simple use case of doing summaries, and we have a legal team who kind of work on these files, and it's sometimes these claims, by the way, legal claims don't get intimated in normal route. You come to know about it pretty late when a court kind of is giving a summons. So it leaves little time for you to do all the back work and then being there in a position to defend your case in the court. So there we applied this. Interestingly, we had legal officers who have spent decades on this particular journey. So, getting them to adopt, so it was very easy from a tech perspective to generate the summaries. But our legal teams had, a lot of doubts about, the correctness of the summary that was coming out of it. So, basic change management. So that was one of the challenges. I mean, it's very, very normal to expect this, but how do you deal with this? So, we had to work with them. Going back to one of the earlier questions, these are the SMEs. They are indispensable. And believe me, they actually, helped us fine tune and actually, we had to teach them how, the basics of prompt engineering, but then they actually, helped tune the models wonderfully. So very, very good. But it took a lot of, that hard change management, to bring it to the fore.
Yeah, so we implemented a change which basically summarized, like Sriram said, summarized a document for the claim assessor. And then we pre-filled all the input boxes, right? Like good developers do, we pre-filled everything. And we gave it to some of our testers to test, some of our adjudicators. And they started finding all the faults, which did not exist, but they were still not comfortable with it. What we did then was instead of pre-filling those texts, we showed what we are doing on the right side pane, and then we made these doctors just press a check button, right? So that they feel that, okay, they've reviewed it. And so it's a very small change, but it's huge for consumers of AI because now they have visibility on what's happening. They have no idea how AI works. They probably never will. I mean, none of us actually do, but these people will never know how it actually works. But just to show them that this is what the AI thinks it should be, and you just have to approve it. This trust, this visibility, it adds to the trust. And it has made moving things with difficult teams, different teams, little bit easier. But I think it's a long road. And if you go back 20 years, it was very difficult for people to imagine, if I were to send money to someone and they were to say, okay, how do I know that? I'll have to go to my branch office and check. And it was very difficult for them to imagine. And now they get a WhatsApp message or an SMS and they know that it's there. And that's again because they have now visibility through a trusted source. So I think that needs to happen more. That was the case that I experienced. But I'm sure it has to be added many places.
Thank you so much. Our time is up, but I'll still take one last 5-second question for everybody. What is one area where you think AI will be a part of our day-to-day life of everybody in this room in the next 12 months? You have only 5 seconds to answer.
Yeah, thinking about this, I think in the next 12 months, what we're going to see is a lot more kind of concierge type of design. There's a lot of payers that are moving away from super apps going into, in some countries, like I'm going to reference Indonesia here, right? Everything is very WhatsApp based. I think, you're going to see insurers move to that model. I think we're going to see companies focus on the idea of WhatsApp and think about different ways to integrate. I think big enterprise platforms, particularly on enabling services like, workdays and that type of thing. Like, why would I need a workday if I could just talk to a concierge all day and like, hey, can you give me Dave's performance review from last year? I don't want to navigate through a bunch of pages that I can't memorize because I interact with it once a year and I get frustrated and swear at an HR person about how dumb Workday is. I can just ask and then it comes. So I think there's a lot of this idea the concierge model is going to start popping up and disrupting spaces that haven't even really been thought of yet, but are right in front of us every single day.
So in lighter vein, it's the end of the day. So I can say, if ChatGPT or Gemini can help me reply to that question from my wife when I go late, that's probably a use case that's going to probably help me.
Yeah, I think from insurance perspective, there are a lot of things which are going to change. I can see auto underwriting, auto claim processing will definitely happen. We are still struggling with handwritten things, and people always criticize doctor signature, which is a critical part of all the claims files. I hope that within next 12 to 24 months, you will have some AI at least crack doctor's handwriting as well. And probably that will help Shashvat a lot in OPDs. So I hope that, but at least handwritten, documents reading is definitely going to happen for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Concierges, I think everyone will have a concierge. I mean, that's the surest way for AI to be available to everyone. And it's something that's almost already here. Right? So yeah, that's the next thing.
Guys, thank you so much. I really had a great time speaking to everybody on the panel. I'm sure the audience also did. I think we'll have everybody for any questions or discussions that you would like to have. But thank you so much for listening in. And please have a great day, great evening. Thank you so much.